Grids go way back 1500 years in ancient manuscripts, and then they found their way into the printing presses for newspapers. But I know you don't want to learn about history. You're here to learn about why grids are useful to you as a graphic designer, so let's get right into today's video. So the first useful reason behind the use of grids is that it will not only help you with your visual hierarchy, but it can totally determine your visual hierarchy. Now you might have a grid with say 6 columns running down the page. If you want an important aspect of your design to have dominance, you can stretch it over more than just one column, which will help create visual hierarchy. Now as seen here on this webpage for MixD, we can suggest there are 3 columns running down the design. The text on the bottom left is within one grid column, yet the text in the top right covers 2 grid columns. Yes, it does seem simple, but that is the beauty of it. Grids make hierarchy really simple. Now I personally would split this design into 6 columns so you can really generate detailed design assets. The next somewhat hidden reason why grids are so useful as a graphic designer is that they can cause some great impact by totally neglecting the grid. Okay, not totally, but for this tip, do make sure parts of your design adhere to the grids. So maybe a few boxes of typography and some imagery that fall in line with the grid columns and rows, but then have a design element that totally breaks the rule. This will create some contrast and visual impact, which is always good for grabbing the attention of your viewer. This example here has 4 columns on the grid, and then elements that totally disrespect it are added in, which creates some contrast and intrigue. This is how you both use grids and go against them in the same design at the same time. Now the third point when using grids that you might not be aware of is that grids are insanely versatile. They don't just need to be kept for a layout design for such things like magazines or newspapers. Oh no. They can also be used for pretty much everything from logo designing, website creation, font design, posters, and just everything else you can likely think of. Grids are easy to set up and they can be used on almost anything that you want to design. Understanding this versatility does help any design from the get-go. Now I've spoken about micro and macro white space on this channel before, about how it's so important to take note of. But grids actually help you create that white space on your designs effectively. Simply just thinking about which rows and columns of your design will have empty spaces can be a great way to make that white space. Also, if you have, say for example, 3 columns and 4 rows, it might be wise to split each column into 6 columns and each row into 6 rows, so you have a lot more detail to work with within that micro white space. And remember, micro white space is that smaller space between lines of text and closely packed together design elements. Tip number 5 is that the viewer's eye can be helped along your design by the use of grids. Subconsciously speaking, audiences of your designs will typically not like lines of text to be too long or too short, because it makes the information harder to digest. Having grid systems in place can help with this issue, but that's not the only instance where grids can help with the viewer's eye. If you have a layout that's really busy and heavy with lots of text or design elements, using grids can make the viewing experience a whole lot easier simply by arranging everything neatly and in an orderly fashion. This helps the viewer when seeing your work, as they're not swallowed into utter chaos, essentially. So yeah, these are some of the main reasons to use grids on your designs, and I do hope you understand just how helpful they can be when you implement them in a design process. If you want to learn something else about graphic design, do click a video on screen, and until next time guys, design your future today. Peace.